the initial change.
Yep.
It's just been, I mean, a frustrating year with injuries, not just to Caitlin, but obviously to Caitlin. DB ultimately ends up leaving.
Yep.
And so that, you know, we already talked about how you need time to gel, you need time to build chemistry. So how frustrating has it been that the chemistry is just, it's like start, stop, start, stop.
Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle. But I think just at the start of the season too, like, you know, you have your start of the season meetings and you're talking. And for us, it was about, listen, like no matter what happens in the season, it's next woman up. And you have to be ready. And I feel like obviously struggling with injuries, and then, you know, you sign people and then they leave, and it's like, listen, like whoever is next, be ready to play, because it doesn't matter. Like the games still keep coming. Like you still have to be ready to compete. And that's why I was so happy. Like when we signed Aerie.
Aliyah Boston just dropped an interview with Sue Bird. And let me tell you, she said some things about Caitlin Clark that have completely turned heads. We're about to unpack every sharp line, every genuine compliment, and every single keep your expectations in check moment. So, what was your initial reaction when Aliyah openly called out the immense pressure that comes with being teammates with Caitlin?
I mean, it is. Obviously, you never want people to get injured, but the reality is you have to have that mindset, and it gives other people opportunity, floor, off the floor. And I saw you talk on your own podcast about like the spacing and how different it is. But when you're entering a game, like your mental prep, how does it change? Because it's two different systems essentially.
It is. Honestly, like when C is on the floor, I'm like, listen, be ready to run. Be ready to get out. Be ready because she's looking. She's looking. She wants to play fast. Super early in the offense. And like we do that too as well here. But I think sometimes too now without her, like we can get into like a little more half court execution, make the defenses work a little bit harder, first side, second side, third side. And then I think when you have like Kelsey, when Kelsey's playing in transition, get that ball up to her.
And look, ultimately, you always hope that everyone involved benefits when injured players finally return to the court. But what I'm really curious about specifically is how all of this impacts Caitlin when she's actually on the floor.
So entering year 3 for you, just as you said, it's a lot of change.
Yes.
You have a coaching change.
Yep.
You have it's a big free agency year. And really overnight, what that big free agency year was, or big change was expectation.
Yes.
So you guys went from like this up and coming where it's like you're getting to know each other to now it's like, oh, they could win the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what was the experience of essentially becoming like, instead of being the hunter, you're now the hunted?
Yeah. It's crazy, but I feel like it was definitely expected. Like, I think number one, like just last year, everyone, like when they see our name on the schedule, even though the year before we didn't win, like we won 13 games or whatever it was. And it was like, okay, well, but then you added in Caitlin, right? And everybody's like, oh, like they're going to be this, and this. And now everybody's like, oh, you know what? We're going to prove you wrong. Like, hell no.
Aliyah Boston's words felt raw, didn't they? They weren't some carefully rehearsed PR-approved answer crafted by a media team. No, she went on Sue Bird's podcast and just spilled the truth about what it's truly been like playing alongside Caitlin Clark. And let's be totally honest, that kind of truth matters a whole lot more than another fake headline claiming everybody's best friends.
And everybody's like, yeah, like they got, for us, we always think like you have to approach every season with like, we're winning this whole season. So that was our mindset. And I think when you look at expectations, once again, expectations come from everyone outside. Cause like in our circle, we know exactly what we want to do. We also understand that it's a process. We understand that new faces, new coaches, like different style play for people joining us. It's like people need time to figure it out once again. But when you do figure it out, it's going to be scary. And I feel like that's what it was for us. And that was our approach. And we're still like, listen, we are coming here to win this thing. Like that's what it is. And that's not going to change no matter what, because
Boston's perspective cuts deep precisely because she's living this situation every single day. Caitlin Clark has been hailed as the future of women's basketball, ESPN's new favorite highlight machine, and an absolute ratings magnet. That's the kind of intense noise you literally cannot escape, whether you're just scrolling through your phone or stepping into a packed arena, and Boston isn't blind to it. She flat out stated that Caitlin Clark brings eyes, attention, and absolutely massive expectations to every single Fever game. Now let's just pause here for a second. Aliyah Boston isn't some bitter teammate looking for sympathy. She's an all-star in her own right, the Rookie of the Year in 2023, and was the undeniable centerpiece of the Indiana Fevers before Clark even arrived. But the moment Caitlin landed in Indianapolis, everything shifted. Suddenly, every missed shot got instantly replayed online. Every awkward possession morphed into a heated debate, and every single win or loss was dissected with the intensity of a playoff series.
When we signed Aerie, I felt like that was like amazing for us because obviously we couldn't predict C being out for this long at least. And so it's like having someone in that runs the point well, can call her own number, I think honestly has been like our biggest blessing. Obviously now with Bibbs, like she's coming in, she's able to stretch the floor. It's like, I think no matter what, everything is for a reason, right? And that's kind of our focus is, listen, like whatever happens, but whoever is here in our circle, listen, like we're here to hoop.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to play. And so I feel like that's just been our approach. Like it hasn't been perfect. There's definitely been injuries here and there, but.
And that right there is where Boston's honesty truly cuts through all the noise. On Sue Bird's podcast, she powerfully explained that this insane pressure didn't just land on Clark, it landed squarely on everyone. Because if Clark is supposed to be the savior, then what happens when the team inevitably struggles? People immediately start pointing fingers, and teammates like Boston are forced to carry that heavy weight too.
All over.
She is moving, she's making the right read, and it's like, listen, and she's scoring the ball at a very high level. And so I think, it's a little bit both, like once again, like when she's on the floor, like she's looking to get up, people can be like, listen, I don't need to outlet because I know once we rebound, we're getting it up. But I also think it, once again, it's like puts people on their toes because they're like, whoa, I need to find Kelsey in transition. I need to find Aerie now. Like we got to find Sophie and Lexi knocking down threes. Like it's different, but I think everyone is once again finding their own rhythm and that we just did a great job.
But here's the kicker. She reminded everyone that she and Clark had literally never played together before this season, yet the outside world instantly expected perfection. It's like critics somehow imagined Boston should already instinctively know Clark's tendencies, her timing, her vision, all without actually spending months on the court together. Boston flat out said, and I quote, "We weren't given that grace period of like getting to play with someone you've never played with." And honestly, that one line says it all. Think about it. In the NBA, we constantly hear coaches, analysts, and even the players themselves say that chemistry takes time. When LeBron James formed the Heat's Big Three with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, it took them almost an entire season to fully click. But in the WNBA with Caitlin Clark, those expectations were completely flipped upside down. Fans acted like if the Fever weren't a playoff team on day one, then Boston and everyone else must be underperforming. Boston was clearly irritated by that narrative, though she handled it with incredibly calm words. She didn't rant, she didn't point fingers, she simply stated that the team was still learning and that people on the outside weren't giving them any room to actually grow. That kind of maturity says so much about her, especially since she's only 23 years old.
Single time, no
what
matter
is it about them that they're doing that?
It's just the best sports scene. Like I don't know any other way to put it, but when it comes to us, when it comes to the Pacers, when it comes to sports in general, they show up and they're loud.
Yeah, no, being there definitely was just like a palpable vibe.
Yeah.
So like the whole city. I love that the city's kind of on the smaller side, so everything was convenient.
The conversation then shifted towards the remarkable growth of her chemistry with Clark, and Boston openly admitted that those early months were definitely rougher than anyone expected. There were passes she simply wasn't ready for, plays where she didn't read Clark's intent fast enough. And you know how social media works, right? Someone clips a bad possession, slaps a sarcastic caption on it, and suddenly it's proof that the Fever can't work together. But here's the key. Boston didn't deny those struggles. Instead, she explained why they happened. She said that as the season progressed, she truly started to pick up on Clark's rhythm. She noticed exactly where Caitlin's eyes were pointing. She recognized when a pass was coming without having to hear a single thing. That is how real basketball chemistry develops. Not from magic, but from countless reps and shared moments. Boston even gave a pretty striking example, describing how once you've played enough with Caitlin, you don't need her to shout cut, or scream or yell for the ball. You simply read her body language, the way she lifts her head, the way she positions her feet, and suddenly Boston knows the pass is about to fly in her direction. That's when the Fever really started to look more connected on the court. Honestly, this is where the sarcasm kicks in for me, because it's hilarious that people thought this wouldn't take time. Did folks genuinely expect Boston to instantly become Clark's best pick and roll partner after a single practice? Did they think every lob would be caught and finished like some highlight reel? That's just not how sports work. Chemistry is messy, full of mistakes, and Boston's explanation on Sue Bird's show proves she deeply understands that process. But let's not sugarcoat anything. Boston has also dealt with relentless trolls. On the very same podcast, she admitted that people have tweeted at her, saying she's the worst big guy I've ever seen. Think about how absurd that is. She's a #1 draft pick, rookie of the year, an all-star, and yet some couch potato on Twitter thinks he has the right to call her trash. Boston said that she already puts enough pressure on herself, so hearing garbage like that is utterly exhausting, and she's absolutely right. You can tell she doesn't mind being held accountable. She admitted when things weren't smooth with Clark, but she also made it clear that fans expecting instant perfection are clueless. And let's be real, they are. Building timing between a guard and a post player doesn't happen overnight. It takes hundreds of possessions, lots of film study, and most importantly, trust. Now for the good part. Boston also had high praise for Clark. This isn't about jealousy at all. She talked about how Caitlyn's passing ability is elite, calling her a phenomenal passer, and saying that once she sees Clark's eyes, she knows exactly where to go. That's high praise, and it clearly shows that Boston isn't dismissing Clark's talent. She's actually embracing it, even while asking fans to chill with the unfair criticism. What makes this whole thing even more interesting is how Boston framed it. She didn't just talk about Clark as an individual, she tied it back to the entire Fever team, emphasizing that the pressure isn't just on one player, it spreads across the entire roster, and that's what most people completely forget. When one player gets superstar hype, everyone else gets dragged into the circus. Sue Bird, being the savvy interviewer she is, kept digging, asking about Boston's experience with Clark, and Boston didn't flinch. She didn't give cliche answers like "we're just focused on the next game." She gave layered, real answers that revealed how tough and ultimately how rewarding this partnership has truly been. The fans really showed up, and Boston, in all her honesty, pointed out that she absolutely sees the value in Clark's presence. The extra eyes on the Fever mean more visibility for the whole roster. It means the league benefits, and it means women's basketball keeps growing. But here's the catch. It also means that every single mistake gets magnified, and learning curves don't get the respect they deserve. That's the double-edged sword of playing with a generational star. And here's the kicker. Boston never sounded resentful. She sounded motivated. She basically said, yeah, the attention is heavy, but that's part of the job now. That's what makes her take so different. Most players would just throw generic praise at Clark and move on. But Boston took the chance to say, hey, this is great, but give us some breathing room to actually figure it out. It's that honesty that hits hardest. Too often, players try to downplay or dodge questions about high-profile teammates, but Boston leaned into it. She told people what it actually feels like. She owned up to the fact that it hasn't been smooth from the jump, and she made it clear that yes, Clark is great, but the Fever are a team, not just a one-woman show. And let's not forget Boston's own background here. She's not someone who had an easy path growing up in St. Thomas. She had to fight for opportunities just to play organized basketball. She played in co-ed leagues with barely any other girls. She trained outdoors in the blazing sun while kids in the States were playing indoors in air-conditioned gyms. That kind of upbringing made her tougher. So when she talks about pressure and expectations, you know she's speaking from deep personal experience. It's also pretty funny when you compare her words to the way media sometimes spins things. Headlines make it sound like there's constant drama between Boston and Clark, but if you actually listen to the podcast, you realize she's not tearing Clark down at all. She's explaining the process, defending her own journey, and even praising Clark's incredible skill. It's a lot more balanced than the hot takes want you to believe. Part of why this podcast mattered so much is because Sue Bird isn't just some random host. She's a legend who knows exactly what it means to play with stars, to deal with expectations, and to build chemistry. That made Boston feel more comfortable opening up, and you could absolutely hear the raw honesty in her tone. Now let's zoom out for a second. This interview doesn't just tell us about Boston and Clark, it tells us something much bigger about how we treat athletes in this social media era. Fans want instant storylines, they want instant success, they want highlight plays that confirm their biases. But actual athletes, they're grinding, making mistakes, and figuring things out. And when someone like Boston gives us that much-needed reality check, we should definitely listen. Aaliyah Boston's words about Caitlin Clark on Sue Bird's podcast didn't just stop at chemistry and pressure. She kept peeling back the layers of what it actually feels like to share the court with one of the most scrutinized rookies in sports history. The thing is, Caitlin isn't a rookie anymore, but the spotlight hasn't dimmed. If anything, it's only gotten hotter. And Boston made sure to remind everyone that being teammates with Clark means living inside that spotlight, whether you wanted it or not. She spoke candidly about how the outside noise made their early months together almost unbearable. Every turnover became a trending clip, every missed connection became a meme, and Boston admitted it seriously tested her patience. But she also acknowledged something incredibly important. Those struggles are genuinely shaping her into a better player. Learning to work with a guard who plays at Clark's speed, who sees passing lanes others can't, forces Boston to elevate her own game. It's not just about surviving the hype, it's about matching the intensity that comes with it. And here's where Boston got even more real. She admitted that social media criticism isn't easy to ignore. She said she's already her own toughest critic, so when faceless trolls pile on, it feels redundant and utterly draining. But instead of letting that crush her, she's reframed. She pointed out that she can either drown in the negativity or use it as fuel, and her tone made it clear she's choosing the latter. That's a level of maturity you don't always get from young stars. What stood out most is how Boston brilliantly balanced criticism with respect. She didn't dismiss Clark's hype as undeserved. In fact, she doubled down on praising Clark's vision and passing. She described moments when she no longer needs words or signals. Just one look from Clark tells her exactly where to move. That's when you truly realize this isn't about jealousy, it's about patience and growth. Boston knows that the tools are absolutely there for something special. It's just gonna take time. Sue Bird, who's played with superstars like Diana Taurasi and Breanna Stewart, clearly understood where Boston was coming from. She gently nudged Boston to reflect on the bigger picture, and Boston's response was telling. She said the Fever absolutely benefit from Clark's spotlight because it lifts everyone. More fans, more cameras, more coverage. It all means more opportunities for every single teammate. But she also stressed that it comes with an unfair cost. Outsiders expecting flawless basketball every single night. Boston's reminder was simple but sharp. They're still building. The timing of this interview also mattered. The Fever are no longer at the bottom of the standings like in Boston's rookie year. With Clark in the mix, they've pushed into playoff contention. Even as critics continue to dissect every possession, Boston used this moment to make sure people understand that the progress is very real. It may not always show up in flashy highlights, but it's showing up in wins, chemistry, and confidence. Boston also reflected on how her own upbringing shaped the fierce competitor she is today. Growing up in St. Thomas, she didn't have the luxuries that American players had. No indoor gyms, no endless travel circuits, no fancy trainers. She played outdoors in the heat, often in co-ed leagues where she was constantly told not to embarrass the boys. That chip on her shoulder didn't disappear when she entered the WNBA, it only sharpened. So when people try to tell her she's the worst big they've ever seen, she just laughs at the irony. The same toughness that got her here is exactly why she won't break under that nonsense. If anything, Boston's words should make Fever fans incredibly optimistic. She's not running from Clark's shadow, she's stepping into it, standing right beside it, and making sure she's a vital part of the bigger story. She made it crystal clear that this isn't Caitlin Clark's team alone, it's Indiana's team, and every player on it is adjusting, improving, and pushing for something much greater. That honesty hits harder than any empty cliche about trusting the process. By the end of the conversation, you could tell Sue Bird respected how candid Boston was. She wasn't just hyping her teammate, but she wasn't tearing her down either. She was being truthful about the challenges, the growth, and the immense pressure that come with being linked to the biggest name in the league. And that balance, tough honesty mixed with genuine praise, is exactly why this interview stood out. So Aaliyah Boston laid it all out without filters. She called out the pressure, explained the struggles, and showed profound respect for Caitlin Clark's game, all in one compelling interview. No drama, just pure reality. If you enjoyed this deep breakdown, please hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into the WNBA.